Welcome to another edition of Dallas Social Toastmasters, or in this case, Dallas Social Distancing Toastmasters. I am your Zoom facilitator this evening, and I want to do a couple of things before we proceed with the actual meeting itself. The first thing is just to remind everybody, if you are not a speaker, please make sure that you're on mute. If you become a speaker as a table topic or something else, unmute yourself, and then once you are done with your speaking, then go ahead and mute yourself again. Mark, just to let you know, I'm not able to record, so I'm not sure exactly what is going on with that. Is telling me that I don't have rights, so, but I'll let you take a look at that. And the other thing that I want to do is show everybody where the agenda is located. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you.
Try recording again, please.
And let's see here. Okay. All right. So you can find the agenda on our website, and on our homepage, under where it says Members section, you'll see a place there that says Current Agenda. So if you click on that, that will pull up the agenda for this evening. And you can save it from there if you'd like, or you can just leave it up, set it off to the side, and reference it as we go through the meeting. You can also reach it a little bit more in depth by clicking on the Members section link, and that takes you to another portion of our website, in which case you see in the box there on the left-hand side, just a little bit down, you'll see current meeting agenda again. And again, if you click on that, you're going to find access to the actual agenda for the evening. At this point, I am going to remind you one more thing, and hopefully we get a little bit more reminders throughout the meeting. For our speakers, whoever's speaking, whether it's a prepared speaker, whether it's a table topic speaker, or our evaluators, and tonight, evaluators, we're going to do that a little bit differently, so it really isn't going to apply too much there. But if we could have you find the timer, there's going to be a member that's going to be on the screen, and in this case tonight, that's going to be myself. So when you're speaking, find me on your screen, and you can either pin me by going to the top right of my little square where I am. You'll see the three dots, the ellipse, and if you click on that, you can click on pin, and that'll keep the timer pinned to your screen so they can view them as you're speaking, whether it's in table topics or a prepared speech. And then from there, you can also just, as long as you have them in your view, in your sight, then that's fine too. You don't necessarily have to pin them. Just make sure that you can see them so that when the timing comes up, that you can get that. I'm going to go ahead and pass the meeting over at this time to our president of Dallas Social Toastmasters. Please help me to welcome Mr. Mark Sims.
Thank you, Rob. And thank you for everyone for showing up tonight. Again, I apologize for coming here late. My computer was totally messing with me. And thanks again to Ms. Devon Goldsmith for joining us tonight. This time I'll turn it over to our Toastmaster for the evening, Rob Giles. Not you?
No, I'm afraid I am the Toastmaster for this evening. It's Mark Schroeder.
Excellent. Mark Schroeder, please take us away.
All right. As you probably already noticed from our agenda, which is one more click right here, the title of tonight's meeting, or the theme for tonight's meeting, is Lions and Dolphins and Bears. Oh my. Yeah, you might think that this is about the NFL season or something like that, but it's not. It turns out that I was looking through some stuff on the web, and they asked the question, what have you learned about yourself during lockdown? This was real interesting because at least one of the answers was that it was somebody who was either laid off or furloughed. I'm not sure that there's much difference between those two, but they thought that given that they had been laid off or furloughed, that they would have plenty of time for all of the hobbies and all of the creative stuff that they have always wanted to do. Many, many weeks later, they realized, no, they have accomplished absolutely none of that. And it turns out the real problem was motivation and inertia. And they didn't have the motivation and the inertia to do that. But one of the other things that was noted in this was somebody noticed how much time they wasted on commuting between home and work and all of the other places and restaurants and everything else. And it turns out that they, when looking at it, they said, you know, it's probably the first time that they've had a long amount of time that they could spend 8 hours each on sleeping, working, and everything else. That the split between of 8-8-8 in a 24-hour day actually worked. So I wanted to spend some time tonight to focus a little bit on that, in particular on the sleep aspect of that. And what I'm going to talk to you tonight about is sleep chronotypes. So from the title, you can probably guess that sleep chrono comes from the word time. So this is the time of sleep and classifying you by that. And it's often the key to your productivity. And it's not just about being a morning person. There are several different sleep chronotypes, and I'll give you a reference to where you can find some of this material toward the end. But let's start with the first one. The first one and most prevalent one is the bear pattern. Bears sleep and wake according to the sun. So that's the pattern that they typically follow. And they have little or no difficulty sleeping. They're very good at doing intense tasks in the middle of the morning, and bears tend to dip in about mid-afternoon. And again, this is a typical pattern that most people fall into. It's also probably why the workday for most people is like this, because people wake when the sun comes up and they work until about 5 p.m. This is your typical 9 to 5. The second pattern is the lion. Lion are the wake up early people. They're the early risers, the people that I hate. They're go-getters, leaders. I almost take offense to type A because I happen to be type A. My favorite sentence is, I'm more type A than you are. And if that doesn't tell you something about being type A, I don't know what it does. But the lion pattern, those are the movers and the shakers. They may not reach for a cup of coffee until just before lunch. Their most productive time is from the time they get up until lunchtime. And by lunchtime, that's pretty much the end of their productive time of the day. All of their productive hours are passed, and they fizzle out early in the evening and turn in early. This is a pattern that I do not fit well at all. If I had to go to bed at 9 p.m. and get up at 5 or 6, I would be useless after a few days. So that's the second one. We have bear and lion. The third one, wolf. Wolf is the one that fits me the best. Wolf is on the nocturnal end of the spectrum. Wolves get a later start during the day, and they ride the productivity wave about the time that the rest of the world is winding down. There are 2 peaks, usually from about noon until 2 p.m., and again, about the time that the rest of the world clocks out, probably starting around 5 or 6. Wolves tend to be makers, creative types. They're writers, artists, coders, and as you know, I'm a computer programmer, so I fit into that designer-coder pattern. So as a sleep chronotype, wolf fits me perfectly. The next one is dolphins. Dolphins are unusual in that they may or may not have a regular sleep routine at all. They are typically light sleepers. They frequently wake throughout the night. They often do not get enough sleep, and they struggle to fall asleep ruminating over the day's failures. So far we've got bears, we've got bears, we've got lions, we've got wolves, and we've got dolphins. And the final one is sharks. Sharks never sleep. They have to keep water moving over their gills to keep oxygen into their bodies, constantly in motion or it dies, and no wonder it's the most pissed off animal in the ocean. Actually, I'm just kidding. This isn't really one of the sleep chronotypes at all. It's Shark Week. I just had to include that just for grins. There are really only 4. The shark is not included, and you will not find shark when you go to the website. With that, there's a little bit more here, but let's go and do some of our duties, or talk to some of our duty holders, and we'll come back and close that out. First, as timer tonight, we have Rob Giles. He's also performing the role of the vote counter. Rob, in either order, please describe both of those roles that you'll be doing for us tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. As timer, I'm here to help everybody to stay within a specific time frame, because this is important in life in general, especially for somebody named Rob Giles, to learn how to be able to be concise when you need to be concise, and perhaps even to be able to fill some time, which I don't have a problem with, but to do that when needed as well. So I'm going to help the prepared speakers, the table topic speakers, and I can't say evaluators, but I'll mention them as well. When the actual prepared speakers come up, I will show the green card, and that may not look green, but it says green, so you know that that's the green card. When you meet your minimum, well, I shouldn't say your minimum, when you're 30 seconds over your minimum, I think Lee's is 5 to 7. Is that correct, Lee? Okay, I saw your lips move that way.
Yes, correct.
So for Lee, I'll show this at 5 minutes. He qualifies at 4 minutes and 30 seconds, but I'll show this at 5 minutes. When he reaches 6 minutes, I'll show the yellow. When he reaches 7 minutes, I'll show the red. And at that point, he has 30 seconds to wrap things up in order to qualify. For our table topics, it's 1 to 2 minutes, but you do have to reach 1 minute first. When you do, you get the green. At 1.5 minutes, you'll get the yellow. And at 2 minutes, you'll get the red. Again, you have 30 seconds to follow up at that point. Normally for our evaluators, it's going to be 2 to 3 minutes. So it'd be at 2 minutes, you can qualify at 1 minute, 30 seconds, but 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and then 3 minutes, at which point you would have an additional 30 seconds to follow up in order to qualify. Now, as timer, I want to make sure that everybody knows when you are speaking, try to pin me to the screen or make sure that I'm in your view so that you can see what I'm showing. If you don't see me, then you're not going to know what the time is according to where we're going and whether you're going to be close to going over time or not, whether you've met your requirements. Dagon is going to time me. Dagon, my time frame is 7 to 9 minutes. I don't know that I'm going to need all that. And I know that everybody says, yeah, whatever. But that's probably going to be the case, actually, in this one. And my next duty is vote counter. We're going to have 3 times to vote. And that's going to be for our prepared speakers, provided that everybody qualifies on time, our table topics, and then also our best of the big 3. I am your vote counter. So what you'll want to do when we do call for a vote, and the big 3 will request that as the meeting goes along, you're going to go ahead and send me a private chat. So look for Rob Giles in the list of chat participants, and you're going to go ahead and send me a private chat who you think did the best and of who qualified for each of those particular positions. The best of the big 3 is our Toastmaster, our topic master, and our general evaluator. And then at the end of the meeting, I will hand out the ribbons as needed. If there is a tie, I will not mention it, but I will be the tiebreaker. At this point, I think that covers both of my duties for this evening. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Well done, Rob, and thank you. By the way, that is an excellent filter that you've got running on your camera. It makes all of your hair disappear really, really well. It's really believable. Our next duty holder tonight is our posture bell, and that is Dagon Newland. Dagon, please tell us what you'll be doing as posture monitor. I'm going to use monitor instead of bell since bells don't work too well on Zoom.
Oh no, can y'all hear this?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, try again.
Hold on. Let me turn it up real quick.
Heard it that time. It's worth trying.
Well, we're going to try that bell. So as posture monitor, I'm going to keep track of posture. Now, obviously on Zoom, that's going to be a little more difficult since we're all sitting down. So, but there will be times where you may, have hand gestures and things like that, or maybe playing, for those that are wearing glasses, maybe playing the glasses, or just anything that does not fit with what you're speaking. I will try to remember to ring this bell to remind you did something bad with your posture. And then at the end of the meeting, I'll give my report. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Dagon. Our out counter for this evening is going to be Lee King. Lee, please explain what your duty is.
My role as all counter will be to listen for all the various crutch words, such as me, so, and any other phrases that are distracting because they are being used repetitively, or you are saying something that does not necessarily need to be said. And I will give a report at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Lee. Our final duty holder for the evening is going to be our grammarian, which is John Vessels. John, tell us what you'll be doing.
Oh, hello, everybody. Yes, I am the grammarian tonight, and my job is to introduce the word of the day, which it is risible. It means disposed to laughter. So, for an example, I saw his shiny head, and I couldn't help but notice it was risible. Also, as a grammarian, my job is going to be to listen to all the speakers tonight for good and bad uses of the English language and interesting phrases or sentences or words that might be interesting to take note of, and I will present that at the end of the meeting when called on by the general evaluator. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, John. At this time, that concludes all of the introduction of the duty holders. Let me go back to a little bit of the presentation on sleep chronotypes real quickly, finish that up. And that's going to be shared there. All right, the last one that we talked about, of course, was Shark, which is not real at all, but it is still Shark Week. So next, things that you can do. You can actually change your sleep to improve your productivity. That was the original premise of this. There are only certain productive times depending upon your sleep type. So the first thing that you can do, of course, is learn about your sleep chronotype. There's a quiz that will be on the website that I will point you to later that will allow you to determine pretty precisely which sleep type you fit into the best. I certainly know I'm the wolf. There's no question about that. I've always been a night person. To the level that you can do it, reorganize your day. Work with your wiring, not against it. Now, there's a special case here, of course. I actually had somebody who was on night shift for years and years and years and years and years, who suddenly shifted to a day job, a 9-to-5 job, actually maybe even an 8-to-5 job. And quite frankly, it was killing her for a while because she really couldn't do it. If you delve deeply enough into this, you can find that there are some tricks and some tips that you can do to help change your sleep chronotype, almost the same way as if you were having jet lag going across, around the world, something along that order. So there are some things that you can do, and they have to do with things with light and things with modifying your sleep pattern and whether or not you just continue to force trying to sleep or do other things. So there are a few things like that, things that you do or don't want to eat right before dinner, or excuse me, right before sleeping, and certainly things having to do with the colors of the light and the colors of your monitors. But other than that, pay attention to how you feel, tweak your day until it's just right, and you can even take part in a sleep challenge. There is a 30-day sleep challenge. Now, if you want to talk about a challenge that would be fun to do as opposed to some of these other ones, this is not a tough exercise challenge or a tough dieting challenge or a tough any kind of like it. This is a matter of getting better sleep. 30 days is a challenge. And there's again, a way of doing that. And it is referenced on the site as well. So finally, here is the reference, and I will go ahead and put that in the chat so that everybody will have a chance to see it. This comes from Bulletproof, which is the company that produces Bulletproof coffee, which is the coffee that has butter in it, in order to give your mitochondria a good fat to work and get them all a little spinning and producing in the morning. And the author of a lot of this information is Dave Asprey, who is somebody that I follow. All right, so with that, let me stop the share.
And Mark, I have an interesting little fact about sleep.
Sure, go for it.
What time do most of the work-related injuries happen?
Ooh.
3 to 5 p.m.
I would either say it's 4 to 5 p.m. because that's when the bears are losing it, or it's way early in the morning, when people who are not bears or have to be awake. But I'm gonna go with 5 or 6, almost a work hour drive on the way home.
Any other takers? It's actually 3 a.m. is the #1 time that most work-related injuries occur.
Really?
Yes, that's because the body is actually, everybody's body is most tired at 3 a.m. And when you hear of attacks by military attacks going in and invading areas and stuff, it's always 3 a.m. local time that you're going to go in and invade, because even though you've got people that are on duty or whatever at that time, they're actually more vulnerable and less able to respond.
Interesting. Okay, good to know. All right, I've posted the link in the chat. Anybody that wants to go to that page can do so. And like I said, there's additional information and a lot more links there. With that, we can move to the next portion of our meeting, which is our prepared speeches. We have 2 prepared speeches tonight. If you were to look at the agenda, which I can bring up real quick, we do have one slight change that we decided to do here at the last minute. Because since Tanya could not be here, originally TBD here was going to be Dagon, but since we did not have Tanya, we've decided we're going to do a round robin style evaluation for both of our speakers, which basically means everybody's going to have to listen, because everybody's going to need to provide a comment or two to our speakers as to what they thought was either done well or what could have been done better. So just prepare for that. Listen to both of our speakers, because we will go around everybody. Our first speaker tonight is going to be Rob Giles. Let's see, since we don't have an evaluator, Rob, can you tell us roughly yourself, I guess, what your goals are for this evening?
My goals tonight, Mr. Toastmaster, are to inspire the audience. That's pretty much it, without getting into too much detail, because I don't have my actual project listed in front of me. But it's going to, I hope to inspire on more than one level.
All right. So I'm assuming that you have your timer pin, since otherwise you're the timer, so you're not going to be doing your own.
Dagon is my timer.
Right.
So
You've got it, and you've got him all set up, right?
Yes, I do.
All right. So with that, please welcome Rob Giles for his speech entitled Rod Hodder's Words of Wisdom. Rod Hodder's Words of Wisdom. Rob Giles, 7 to 9 minutes.
What is up, Dallas Social? How are y'all doing tonight? That life is great. Life is a party. And I'm going to tell you some ways that you can make life even better. I've got 10 of those things that I want to tell you, but I'm going to actually narrow that down, because I want to talk to you again later in the year. So right now I want to tell you about, how many was that? Let me think again. How many? I don't know. That's it. I want to tell you about 5 things that can help your life be better. First thing I want to tell you is don't wear fake mustaches. But that's not part of the 5. I want to tell you first that I'm a musician and I'm on the money all the time, but I still have some respect for it. Whether it's Chuck Berry or Rosetta Tharpe, you have to honor these people that came before you. Now, they're known as the mother and the father of rock and roll. Well, not in that order, but they're definitely known as those 2 things. Chuck Berry, father of rock and roll. Rosetta Tharpe, mother of rock and roll. So you got to respect them so you can move on, because guess what? They are cool. Now, the second thing that I want to tell you about is that when I have blisters on my hands from the guitars, from the picks, from the drums, and I have to stay home, if my girl goes on the road with you without me, don't you be fooling around with her anymore. That's not cool. The third thing that I want to tell you about is, dude, those guitar picks, those are mine. Don't go taking them. You go get your own. They That's not cool at all. The fourth thing I want to tell you about, and this thing really is very important. This has to do with what I do and what I make. I make music, and we don't have to tell everybody, but I'm gonna. What I make is awesome. It's good stuff. I don't need you to be going around telling people that it ain't any good. Don't be going around telling those lies. That's not cool at all. Not at all. Now the fifth thing, and this isn't the fifth worst part of the five, you better take all these as all number ones. This is the one. Now, my guitar strings, my guitar strap, my drumsticks, my guitar picks, we already went over that. All of those things are the best. Don't be thinking that you want what I have just because they're the best. You can go out and get your own. Don't be sitting there thinking about mine. So I'm going to go over this again with you, just to be sure. 1, respect the mother and father. 2, don't be fooling around with anybody else's girl. 3, don't take my stuff. 4, don't go around telling lies about me. And 5, my stuff is the best. Doesn't mean that you should be looking at and wanting it. You do all 5 of these things, I guarantee you, your life is going to be a party. And you're going to be hitting a lot more cowbell. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. Just one particular comment. I think the filter is no longer working to remove your hair. All right. That was definitely interesting. Thank you so much, Rob. All right, our next speaker tonight is going to be Lee King. Lee, if you would, since we are doing the round robin evaluations, give us an idea of what you will be doing for your evaluation tonight.
Yes, I will be speaking from the track on strategic relationships. Specifically, my project is on giving a 5 to 7 minute speech on a topic that I am familiar with that the rest of the audience is not familiar with.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. If you would, please make sure that you have your timer pinned, which is Rob Giles. And with that, please, everyone, welcome Lee King with his speech entitled The Way I See It. The Way I See It, Lee King, 5 to 7 minutes.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This project is one that's rather interesting that I'm working on this evening, in that it is a speech, as I said, that I am more or less the expert, and supposedly very few people, or really nobody in the audience, is supposed to know what I am talking about. In thinking of such a topic, I was reflecting on just different aspects of life, and one thing came to mind, and I thought, well, this actually would be worth sharing, or would be interesting, and that is the way that I see it. Things are different for me, as you all know. I am visually impaired, and I don't drive because of it. So I thought that it would be rather interesting to share the pros and cons of what life is like as a non-driver. I think everybody here drives, so this is one of the best ways to address this project. Now, there are pros and cons to not being able to drive. First, start off on a positive note. One advantage to not driving is I don't have to worry about getting tickets. Believe it or not, I am 38 years old, and I have never been stopped by a police officer, and I have never received a ticket. I think that's really remarkable driving record, and I'm not really sure that there are very many other people in Dallas that have such a strong driving record. Anytime that I see a job posting in which they look at your driving record, I often think, well, that might be the best job for me to apply for. I certainly would not get turned down for having a poor driving record. But along with that, obviously, comes some disadvantages. And while we're talking about employment, there are jobs that I have been interested in the past, certainly in home health and other aspects of therapy that I have not been able to take simply because I can't drive, which has been a little bit of a bummer. But all the jobs that I've had, I have actually really enjoyed, and it has not been quite so bad staying in one place, although there are those days that I feel like if I could get out of the office and do work elsewhere, it would be awfully nice. Usually when I have more difficult patients, and it's one difficult patient after another, sometimes having a little bit of a break seems awfully nice. But I'm very fortunate to have great coworkers in any place that I've worked at, and I have still enjoyed it. Now, another advantage to not driving is I probably save a good couple of $100 a month on insurance. I don't have to pay for car insurance, which is something that a lot of people have to pay for. Is my understanding is a significant amount of money, especially when you are a teenager or adolescent and you're still learning how to drive. It becomes a very hard area, and I know of some teens, I have heard of some teens and young adults that don't drive simply because they can't afford the insurance. But while we're talking about adolescence and young adulthood, one of the biggest disadvantages, or one of the hardest things that I actually have experienced in my life, not being able to drive during that period of my life, and certainly from a social standpoint, is that it was definitely more difficult for me to date. There were a lot of women that really preferred to have someone that could drive. I could not do that. And so in some ways that did make a difference. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I didn't get married until much later in life. Fortunately, my wife now does not mind driving, although at the moment with her illness, she still cannot drive. And based on some things that she's told me about experience that she's had in the driving simulator, I'm not real sure that I want to be in the front seat when she does go back to driving. Truth be told, I'm not altogether sure I'd want to be on the sidewalk when she's driving. But nonetheless, at some point in time, I will trust my wife to escort me here and there, and our life will get back to normal. But that has been definitely a major challenge in my life. And it's one that I think a lot of people don't really appreciate unless they have experienced it. And then just one final thing about driving, a pro and a con, just something to leave you with. And that is the price of gas. The price of gas is very steep. And that is another area in which I have more money to play and have fun in my budget, because I don't have to spend a couple of $100 on gas. And when people talk about the price of gas going up, I look at the fact that the price of a bus ticket has not gone up in a very long time. So I do have those opportunities to save money and go and do other fun things because I don't have to pay for gas. With that said, though, however, there are those days that taking the bus is not a very rosable activity. Certainly when it is 102 degrees and a heat index of 109, waiting at the bus stop is not the most exciting thing. So what I want to leave you with this evening, my fellow Toastmasters and guests, is that there are pros and cons to not being able to do things. And driving is just one of those things that there are pros to driving, there are cons to driving, and there's pros and cons to not having that privilege. But at the end of the day, you'll still live. Back to you, madam. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lee. Appreciate it. So it's interesting, the different days, different times. We, for the most part, I think, grew up with driving being everything. When are you going to get your license? When are you going to get a car? When are you going to be able to drive on your own? Learner's permit, all of those things. And it was a very, very big deal for a lot of people. And these days, it's just not anymore. I've got a lot of friends that their attitude is that's what Uber is for. They don't own a car. They don't care to own a car. They got their driver's license at 21 or 22 as opposed to 16 because Uber was taking care of them. And I suppose the same thing is true if you happen to be in, let's say, New York City or places where you just don't own a car. So things, the importance of owning a car has varied a lot depending upon where you are and what time in history. With
I
regard to
can't even
tickets,
imagine what it would be like to be 16 right now with Uber and Lyft. I think the
with the
experience would be totally
cost,
different.
they claim it's cheaper to not own a car. Between the car payment, the insurance payment, and the gas and everything, they claim it's cheaper just not to own a car. Now, if you had to do taxis every place, that'd be another story. But with Uber and Lyft, it's very, very different. And you mentioned excuse me, not accidents. You mentioned tickets, etc. In my entire life, I've gotten one ticket total. I have been stopped a couple of other times, including the one for robbing a liquor store. And you say, robbing a liquor store? Yes, I was stopped for robbing a liquor store. And then I got out of the car, and at 6'6", they took a look at me and said, never mind, because I happened to be wearing the right colors. I was wearing a blue shirt and t-shirt, a blue shirt and blue jeans, but I was nowhere near the rest of the physical description of their suspect. So they were done with me very, very quickly the moment I got out of the car. All right, let's see. We have had two speakers. I need to have a little bit of business here. Need to check on how our speakers did on their time. So I don't know if Dagon, if you have communicated with Rob so that he has both pieces or not, but how did Rob do?
Yes, I did not meet my qualifying time. I was short. Even if I would have went with the 5 to 7, I still would have been short. Amazing. You guys need to mark this down in the record books. Apparently, I did my speech in 4 minutes and 13 seconds. However, the good news is that Lee King did qualify on time at 6 minutes and 32 seconds.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob. All right, so that means that Rob will be automatically our, that Lee will be automatically our best speaker because Rob has been disqualified tonight. With that, I think we can move on to the second portion of our meeting. The second portion is table topics, and our table topics master for this evening is Dawn Levy. Take it away, Dawn.
Sorry, thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. So I will be leading the table topics tonight, which, this is my first time. I want to speak for just a minute about sleeping. When Mark told me that that was the topic, that's a little daunting to me because I just don't make a big deal out of sleep at all. So I had no idea what questions to make. So I stopped and thought about it a little bit. And as far as not making a big deal out of sleep, my dad used to joke me that tease me that I thought it was a waste of time. And he's really not too far off. But that said, I'll just fall asleep any time of the night. And if I wake up at 5 in the morning, I'll get up. If I wake up at 8, I'll get up. As long as I don't have to get up for work early. It just isn't a big deal to me. But that said, I can fall asleep anywhere at any time. And that is not a good thing. But especially on my couch or in a long Zoom meeting, I cannot, or just a long meeting in general. It doesn't matter what is going on. I cannot keep my eyes open. So I've had to learn all sorts of tricks to not fall asleep when I shouldn't. Okay, so all of my table topic questions have to do with sleep. The first question, some people are die-hard nappers and some people cannot stand napping. So the question is, are you a napper and why? And I'm going to change this real quick, and I'm going to give this question to Dagon. Is Dagon here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't see you.
Are you ready, Rob?
I'm ready.
All right. He said he's going to change that. What, did you change it because you saw me yawning a while ago, I imagine? But anyway, being a napper, you know, it really all depends on really how tired, you know. Sometimes I do like to take a nap occasionally, but sometimes I don't. It all depends on really what I have going on, you know, how much I work that day. If I had a really long, tiring, rough day at work, you know, working really hard, and I don't have anything to do when I get home, you know, I might flop on the couch and end up dozing off until it's time to eat. But if I do have something to do, and I know I need to get something done, you know, I gotta stay awake. I don't have time to take a nap, so I don't even think about taking a nap. So it's not. I don't know how I'm gonna be able to get this word of the day ritual in, but but anyway, yeah, but napping, yeah, it all, like I said, it all depends on what, you know, how busy a day I have, and I might take a nap. But for the most part, I don't. Only if I have a really busy day and I have nothing to do when I get home, I'll take a nap. Back to you, Tabletop Master.
Thanks, Dagon. That makes sense. You don't have a strict policy about it. The next question. Would you rather sleep in a tent in 20-degree weather or sleep in a tent on a Texas beach in the summer? Mark Sims, this is for you.
That is really tough. I would rather sleep in the heat and the hotter of those two environments. I would definitely not be risible in any sense because I'd be burning up, which I don't like. But I would think that sleeping in 20-degree weather could be very much a risk of freezing, maybe freezing to death. I don't know. It would definitely be undesirable. It wouldn't be much of a picnic. I think sleeping on the beach in 20-degree in hot weather. I can actually remember in the 80s going to South Padre Island and getting a terrible sunburn because I spent too much time at the beach and didn't have appropriate suntan lotion or wasn't smart enough to use it. So I don't like either of those two alternatives, but if that was my option, I would take the hotter of the two and I would complain about it substantially. Madam Topics Master.
Got it. Thanks, Mark. Okay, the third question. What would you do if it was 3 a.m. and you were awakened by your neighbor yelling to someone inside his house to let him in? John Vessels, this is for you. And don't forget to pin the timer.
Well, that's happened to me more than once. And some of the situations are risible. It's just nutty sometimes. I live in a condo, so you never know what happens around here. And sometimes, yes, at 3 a.m., after everybody's made their way home from the bar and stuff, you hear a lot of things going on. And most of the time, if it's just in an apartment I can't see, I just listen and make sure that nothing untoward happens where I need to call the police or something, and I just kind of wait it out and hope it stops in 10 or 15 minutes. But with my sleep pattern, a lot of times I sleep through it. It's got to be loud to wake me up. Now, sometimes, actually not too long ago, my neighbor across the hall and somebody else down the hall were going at it in the middle of the night. And it woke me up and I had to get up and look out this little peephole in my door to see, oh, good, is this going to get ugly? But no real action, but a lot of yelling and carrying on and just goofy stuff. But all in all, it was kind of entertaining, and it didn't last more than like 10 minutes. I just went back to sleep. Back to you, Dawn.
Great, thanks, John. So this has been the question for Rob with timing. Did everybody qualify on time? Okay, so Dagon, pardon me?
All speakers qualified on time.
Great, and we don't ask about the word of the day till the end, is that right?
Oh, we got another one to go.
What?
Now, word of the day, now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, everyone use the word of the day.
Thank you. Thanks for helping me out there. Okay, and so I am turning it back now to Mark Sims. You're the general evaluator?
Yes, I am.
A quick one, Don, go ahead and call for a vote.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so can you please cast your vote for best table topic speech, and your chat will go to Mark Schroeder. So
It goes to Rob Giles, except he's Rod Hodder today.
okay, Rod Hodder. Okay, sorry. Not doing great here. Okay, so the first question was for Dagon. Some people are diehard nappers, some can't stand it. Are you a napper? That was Dagon's speech. The next one was Mark Sims. Would you rather sleep in a tent in the 20-degree weather or a Texas beach in the summer? And then the last one was for John Vessels. What would you do if it was 3 a.m. and you were awakened by your neighbor yelling at someone inside his house to let him in? So you can go ahead and cast your vote. To Rob or Rod Hodder.
Thank you, Dawn. We will head into the evaluation portion of the meeting. We will first go over the speech evaluations, and this is going to be a round robin type of evaluation where everyone can comment. What I'll do, rather than everyone talk all over each other, I'll just start calling off people to give their evaluation of, started off with Rob's speech in the order I see you on the Zoom screen. So I will start off with Mark Schroeder.
Okay, I'll just warn you that the order that you see on the Zoom screen is going to change probably as time goes on because they move around.
Yes.
Rob's speech. Wow, what can I say about Rob's speech? I could say, yeah, it needs more cowbell, right? Absolutely. This was quite a surprise, and I did not know that the hair was coming. The hair comments were absolutely random, but I did not expect an in character, especially not as in character in a dynamic character. He stayed in character well, did an amazing job with the voice throughout, and voice inflection, everything else. I'm quite impressed. I would not have thought that he could have kept that up even for 4 minutes and 13 seconds, no matter what. I would have broken out of that character so fast, it would have been really funny. And the ad libs of the number one, don't wear a mustache, don't wear a fake mustache. I thought that was really great because he was having trouble keeping it on. Good ad libs. So I really enjoyed it. It was quite different and something that we have not seen from Rob. I don't know that we've seen something like that ever before. So that's mine.
Okay, and on my Zoom screen, I am next. And Rob, I'll just say it was great. It was high energy. It was funny. I think we've seen you dressed up as a rocker last Halloween. And definitely keep the mustache, because even if you did not intend that mustache drooping over your lip was hilarious. I've seen something like that on the Three Stooges before. And what was really interesting, whether you intended this or not, but in the 5 points that you went over, it hit me that the 5 tied to at least 5 of the 10 commandments. Honor thy father and thy mother, do not commit adultery, do not steal, don't bear false witness, and don't covet your neighbor's goods. So that was very interesting. So very unique, totally enjoyed it. And the next person I see on the Zoom screen to evaluate Rob is John Bessels.
Hey, Rob. Quite risible. No, I'm very entertained by it. And I kind of agree with Mark, real high energy. I agree with Mark that you stayed in character. I heard this, you don't seem to have it all the time, but when you're in character, I hear the New Yorker coming out of you. And, and it was great. I just thought it was hilarious and quite informative. I thought it was interesting, though, that your first 5 points didn't match your last 5 points exactly. So it was kind of like it seemed like they went off kilter ever so slightly. And I don't know, maybe it was just the one, or maybe just the way you said them kind of just threw me there for a second. But it was like, all right. It's like, well, you know, he's a rocker. He's fading. It's like, but no, great time. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And Lee, please give your evaluation of Rob's speech.
Very good speech, like the energy level, definitely good vocal variety. The one thing that I would point out is to practice a little bit more. And I say that because I feel like if you had practiced and done this a couple of times, you would have had your timing down and you would have qualified on time. I'm not really sure why or how you came up with 7 to 9 minutes for that, and your speech was 4 minutes and 13 seconds or something like that. But really, I would just say just practice because you want to get your timing down.
Thank you, Lee. Dagon Newland, please evaluate Rob.
All right, I have written down some of the same things that other people already mentioned, like, you know, a great voice inflection, and, you know, your, like John said, your accent coming out, so that's really great. And the only thing I also noticed, you were like looking off to the side a couple of times. I guess, I don't know, to me it'd be to your right. I didn't know if you had like your points written down there to make sure you captured your points or not, but you kept looking across to the right. So I was gonna say, if you did have notes, you know, I'd put them on top of post them on top of your computer, or have the PowerPoint on your computer. But other than that, if not, I don't know why you're looking across. But otherwise, you know, all your gestures and stuff, like, you know, right on time with what you're saying. So it's a really great speech, and, you know, very funny. So back to you, Tony Evaluator.
Thank you, Dagon. And Dawn, please give your evaluation of Rob's speech.
Great. Well, I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. Definitely was not expecting that. And I thought it was cool that he could pull it off. And I think I did notice the look into the side too, and kind of speaking pretty quickly, but I kind of felt like it went with the character a little bit. I mean, he was a bit of a mess. And so that came across in different ways. The only thing I think also that I don't remember hearing someone mention were, Rob, your hand gestures. I thought they were great. I like when you said, you go get your own, like that. I don't know. I just thought it was really funny, and I thought all the hand signs were really appropriate, and the accent kind of coming and going went along with all of it. So great job. I really liked it.
Thank you, Don. And Devon, you're a guest. You don't have to comment, but if you had any comments on Rob's speech, you'd be welcome to. And in that case,
Hang on, I'm trying to unmute.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can unmute him. Unmute her, excuse me. Unmute button is not working, so I can't do it. Devon, can you take yourself off mute?
She may not be actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's move on.
In that case, she can have an opportunity in the future. Hopefully she'll come back and see a lot more of Rob's speeches. The next speaker is Lee King, and we can go around and everyone chip in on Lee's speech, and we will start with Mark Schroeder.
Let's see, Lee's speech. I think I'm going to talk about two particular aspects, one of which he had a difficult problem starting off, which was picking something that the rest of us knew nothing about. And I think he did a miraculous job of picking something that the rest of us did not have 100% in common with regard to the ability to drive. So I thought that it was just an escapingly brilliant choice for a topic, because it does allow him to talk about something that would be completely vu jade. Doesn't look at all familiar to us, and we've never been there before. So that was one thing. And the second thing, I really like the humor. I would point especially to the sections with regard to the driving simulator and the comments about not wanting to be as a passenger in his wife's car for a little while, or on the sidewalk and things of that nature. I thought that the humor that he interjected there was really, really good. And it was done in kind of an offhand manner, or off the cuff manner, the way it sounded. I'm sure it was prepared, but it sounded like it was just off the cuff, and that's part of what makes it work. It's one of those times that almost saying ahs and ums as a planned thing makes the humor better. So I thought those were the things that I would concentrate on that I thought were really, really pluses.
Thank you, Mark. And I think the speech was unique. Again, and it really was something that we normally would not think about. And it was a very good balanced discussion. There are pros, there are cons. And so it was informative in that sense. The only thing I can think of to add is in the introduction, if you're ever going to talk to an audience about something they don't know anything about, you know a lot about, that could raise people's hackles somewhat. You could say, here's something that may not be in your frame of reference. It may not be part of your life experience. Now you turn out to be totally right in your statement, but it could slightly put some people on the defensive. It's very thoughtful, very open, very sharing speech. We appreciate it. And now I'd like to ask John Vessels if he has any comments on Lee's speech.
Well, Lee, I thought you did a really good, well-organized speech tonight for being just out there. I thought it was funny, especially when you were talking about your wife and not being willing to ride inside the car, much less be on the street. You threw some little funny notes in there, and I appreciated that, and that made it really entertaining. I don't know why you never got a ticket for jaywalking or loitering on a corner waiting for the bus or something like that. So you're not above a ticket, just not for driving. But no, I agree. It was a good speech. It was interesting, and I couldn't imagine not having a driver's license and not being able to get out. You know, when I had my surgery earlier this year, and for the first few weeks, I couldn't drive, and so my roommate had to drive me back and forth to therapy and all that kind of stuff. I don't have the patience for Uber, so unless you're just right there in 10 seconds, it's like I would already have my shoes on and out the door and in my car. So, but very interesting, very unique. And I think it's really good. And the fact that it makes us all remember too is like, if we didn't have a car payment, we didn't have car insurance, we didn't have to pay for gas, how much extra money we'd have. But all in all, great speech. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Rob Giles, please evaluate Rob's Lee's speech.
Thank you very much, Mr. Evaluator. Lee, a couple of things that I thought were great. One, although other members of the audience may not have thought of some of these things themselves, wasn't long ago, I would say maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, that I myself started to contemplate, because I had totaled my car and my insurance was starting to go up significantly. And so I started to ponder, all right, well, how much for the new car? How much for the insurance at that point? And all of those costs I started to think about, and I thought about, what's the alternative? And one of the alternatives I actually thought about was one step actually further, because I was trying to think of all possibilities, maybe riding my bike, maybe actually taking one of those little scooters around town. And I started to calculate those things, and I go, well, that's not really an option from when I tried using it. But for me, the topic was great. Not to get too far offhand there, but the topic I thought was great. At least in my opinion, it was perfect for my frame of mind and what I thought in the past. I also loved, like Mark had said, and I think John had said, and about the humor, adding just little bits of humor in there. I thought that was great. It always helps to keep people's attention, keep people focused on what they're listening to. And the one thing that I would say is, like, and I can't remember who said it, maybe have a little bit more in the intro. I don't know if it was Mark Sims that has maybe a little bit more kind of in the intro that presents what you're coming into and what you're going to be showing or talking about a little bit more. But I think that's kind of a small thing in my mind. Overall, I think you did a fantastic job, especially considering that you stepped in at the last minute to do it. So congratulations. Thanks again. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you. Dagon Newland, please give your evaluation.
All right, one of the hardest things about doing this is towards the end is that other people have already kind of commented what you wrote down, but nevertheless, I was kind of repeat some of the things, I did think, in the humor in there, especially in the very beginning, was, really good on the speech. And also when you first, mentioned that, basically, something that other people, don't know or can't, deal with, is that I started thinking about things of myself that, me that other people may not have dealt with. And, I actually came up with a couple, so I thought that might be a good speech for me to do sometime too. So, kind of got me thinking about myself. And also, I did like the fact that you did, you kind of alternated the pros and cons too. But overall, it's a great speech, and all those points you put out there for it. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Dagon. And Dawn, please give your remarks.
Okay, several things. One, I'm almost glad that Rob didn't make it for time, so I didn't have to decide which was my favorite, because those are really both great speeches tonight and so different. Leah, I loved the intro. Like it felt kind of suspenseful to me. Like what are you going to come up with? What are you going to say? And then I got a little bit anxious of what you were going to divulge. So it was just a good flow, I felt like. And I also really liked how you, like Rob did it, he counted off, and then you did it instead of numerically, the way you did start with first, but then another, and then another, and then your final thing. And it flowed nicely in that way too. I also liked the bit of humor, which I absolutely did not see coming. So then for some reason, it was even funnier than if you did see it coming. I also like that you weighed out the pros and the cons, and then your summary, you left plenty of time to that, when I think some of us tend to rush that because we don't have time, but you had plenty of time to say your conclusion and summary. So I really liked that. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Dawn. And at this point, I don't think there's a need to vote on the best evaluator. I think we all were the best evaluators tonight. And at this point, we can move into the duty holders' presentations. And first, I'd like to ask our posture bell duty holder, Dagon Newland, for his report.
All right, if you never heard the bell go off, so here's the echo. All right, it's gone. All right. So also you didn't hear the bell go off tonight because everybody that's speaking didn't have anything bad posture. Nobody fiddling with their glasses or anything like that. Although when other people are speaking, I saw other people fiddling with stuff, but they weren't speaking, so I couldn't dig in. But anyway, so everybody was good as they were speaking. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you. And Lee King, please present the counter report.
Very good overall. Dagon, I caught several O's during your table topics. Other than that, I didn't really catch very much. So good job tonight.
Thank you, Lee. And John Vessels, please provide the grammarian report.
Well, the grammarian report is short and sweet tonight. I did a good job. I didn't really hear any bad use of the English language. Although Dagon said speaking is that S-P-A-K-I-N? I never have that G on the end. It just sounded funny. But Lee did use my word of the day, risible, and when he was giving a speech too, on top about it, using it, the word of the day. And everybody did a great job tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just give a few remarks on the meeting. The theme, Lions and Dolphins and Bears, oh my, the theme title, that was imaginative because it's so easy maybe to fall into a rut or sometimes try and recycle a certain theme. And that was one I had not heard before, and it was showed very good imagination and very good information. And that is a good comment on being able to split up work when you're working at home between 8, 8, and 8. And I've been experiencing that myself, so that hit home. I think we adjusted very well with a smaller crowd. We stepped up, gave a speech, and then that was a good adjustment for us to have the round robin type of evaluation. And so one thing that came to mind when I went through the second round of the round robin evaluations is Dagon made a good point. All the good comments had been made by the time it got to him. I probably could have reversed that order, and that way given Don and Dagon an earlier chance to comment. But nothing wrong with repetition on a praise issue, and everyone had good comments there. So overall, we had an efficient and a very active meeting. Everyone got plenty of opportunities to talk. And at this moment, we want to start the voting. I believe we've already voted on the best of the table topics. Hadn't heard the results yet. So please, at this time, take an opportunity to vote for the best of the big three. You can choose between either our Toastmaster, Mark Schroeder, our table topics master, Don Levy, or me, Mark Sims, the general evaluator. I saw Rob pointing to himself. He usually would make an awesome one of the best of the big threes, but not tonight since he wasn't one. That might not be allowed. So please send your votes to Rob. That's what he was pointing at. Okay. Now it's sinking in. He wasn't trying to usurp the process. And I'm typing in my vote. While Rob is counting those ballots, before we get the results, I'll go over the business portion of the meeting. And for starters, we were fortunate to have a guest tonight, Devon Goldsmith. So Devon, if you'd like to unmute yourself, please tell us just a little bit about yourself, how you come to our meeting, and what can we do for you?
Right. So I'm finally reaching a point in my career where I'm starting to lead others, and I need to be more purely focused on my intention and conversation and being able to facilitate and foster the attention of massive groups of people, and while implementing, operational level type changes. And I noticed that I've been a business analyst for about 15 years. If you don't know what a business analyst is, it's basically someone who helps run projects on operational levels inside, big companies. They help them make more money, or they help them get their marketing completed. But I work mainly on the IT side of things. So when you use your phone and you're playing with an app and it breaks, I'm the people in the background that think of a way to fix that and kind of go in and study that. Now I've stepped into a role that has to do with the cadence of how a programming team operates. I'm going to be a Scrum Master, but I'm also going to have background and experience in, how to test the system as well. Like, I'm going to also need to be an expert. So that's heavy soft skills. And I came here to kind of enhance that. In the beginning of the conversation, Mark put some links inside of the chat, and I actually listen to Dave Asprey's podcast every day. I drink his coffee. I experiment with smart drugs, is what they would call them. I don't like using the word drugs because I feel like it's just an optimizer to help you see more clearly so you can get the neurons in your brain firing a lot faster. I don't really fit in with any of my friends. Everybody's focused on the wrong things right now, and I feel like this is an opportunity for you to optimize yourself and really live in your best reality. So I came here looking for some coaching. I know I don't know everything, and I just want to learn from everybody in front of me. And I would like to hear, hey, don't put your hands in your pockets. Hey, you slouch. You're making this funny thing with your face. Why are you doing that? So I need to hear those things so that I can kind of train myself out of them. And I know that it might be uncomfortable. I might not always be able to make every Thursday based off of my schedule, but right now, I really just want to put my foot in the door and, see about how it will work and just learn from you guys. So I apologize for talking so much, but that was my 1 minute.
Thank you, Devon. And no, that's very good information. And you will be able with us to get opportunities to grow professionally. It's a situation where you can both have fun and you can also develop speaking skills, interactions with others, management type skills, focusing on listening, because that's what some of our roles entail. And like you pointed out, being gently critiqued or reminded on something you may unintentionally do in what you say or your body language that could be distracting. So you will get great opportunities here. Dawn, yes.
When you're done, can I say something?
Yes, I'll come right back to you. But definitely, whenever you reach the point you want to join us, that'd be terrific. And you pointed out that you might not be able to make every meeting. As long as we have a pretty good idea, or as we know if you can or cannot make it, then we can work with that. So we greatly appreciate you coming tonight. Dawn.
I was just going to say to Devon that when I started, that was one of my big things is it's low stakes to have you guys tell us or tell each other, don't say, you're coughing, don't run your hands through your hair and all this kind of stuff. And when I started, I think I got every single time I've said, too many until tonight. I just want y'all to know this is my first time ever. I didn't say it. Of course, y'all wouldn't notice, but I do because I say it every time, but I think y'all finally broke me of it. So thank you.
Got you. Okay.
One other quick one. Devon, we did not talk about this on our previous call, but you were talking to another biohacker who takes nootropics. And also, welcome to Agile and Scrum. That's what we do at work.
Yeah, I love it. It's my thing. I'm the 5 a.m.er.
Oh, well, okay. I'll write on everything but one point because I'm the wolf.
And as other parts of our business, I want to remind the officers, and I think most all the officers are here tonight, that we're going to have a meeting just after the normal meeting. And Dawn, you'd be welcome to stay and participate also. And also want to remind, I think everyone here knows that we'll be having a club contest that on September 10th. We both humorous speech contest and an evaluation contest. And I have a few remarks, and we can have some brief discussion on that also at the officers meeting. Before we hear the results.
Hello, Mark.
Yes,
Mark.
sir.
Quick clarification, your email said September the 20th, but then I thought you said September 10th, and now I'm hearing September 10th. So September 10th or September 20th?
For the contest, that's the 10th, because that is a Thursday, and 31st, first. Yes, so the September 20th would have simply been a typo.
Okay, well, you might want to send out a clarification email then.
Well, thank you, because yeah, I had no idea that I had done that. Must have been typing too fast. But the 20th, I do not think would even be a Thursday. So that's an excellent point. And before we move on to the results, does anyone else have any business to bring up at this time? Rob.
For any of our officers or for any of our members, we do have the TLI Last Chance, which is on Saturday from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. So if you're interested, you can take a look at the D50 website, the District 50 website, and that address is D50TM, that's as in Toastmaster.org. So D50TM.org. And you can go on there and go to the TLI section, and you'll find the box schedule for this Saturday, the 15th. Again, it's going to start at 9 a.m. and they have a whole first section for officer training, I think from 10 to 11, I think it is. And then again from, I want to say 1 to 2, but definitely go on there and look. You have to register if you are going to take any courses. The non-officers, there are some other courses, I believe, at least I think 1 or 2 other courses in there, but check the block schedule at d50tm.org first. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to ask Rob to please announce the winners. Obviously, we're not going to have a vote for the best speaker since only one qualified on time, and we're not going to vote for the best evaluator since we were all that. So please announce the other winners, Rob.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So for table topics, obviously, let's give a round of applause, or if you have some cowbell, go ahead and give some cowbell to Lee King for such a great speech. And then also for our table topics, we had 3 great contestants, but only one can win. And tonight, that was Mr. John Vessels. And finally, and thank you all for the great input for both myself and for Lee for our speeches. Thanks for the feedback on that. You are all winners. And then finally, our best of the big 3. Again, only one can walk away from this a winner. And in this case, it is our Toastmaster, Mr. Mark Schroeder. So congratulations to our winners. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And with nothing else, this will conclude the normal part of the meeting. And once the meeting is over and the recording stops, then we can go into an officers meeting with the exact same people here, except Dawn, you're welcome to join or leave, whichever suits your needs.
My mom just came over, so I'm going to go ahead and go, but thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all.
Bye.
So Rob, are we ready? Are you ready to stop the recording as well? All right, stopping recording in 3, 2,